Daily Words of God. The work of the Holy Spirit is accomplished and completed through many types of people and many different conditions. Although the work of God incarnate can represent the work of an entire era, and can represent people's entry in an entire era, work on the details of people's entry still needs to be done by men who are used by the Holy Spirit, not by God incarnate. So God's work, or God's own ministry, is the work of God's incarnate flesh, which man cannot do in his stead. The work of the Holy Spirit is completed through many different types of people. No single person can achieve it entirely, and no single person can express it completely. Those who lead the churches also cannot represent the work of the Holy Spirit completely. They can only do some leading work. The work of the Holy Spirit can thus be divided into three parts: God's own work, the work of people who are used, and the work on all those in the stream of the Holy Spirit. God's own work is to lead the entire era. The work of those who are used is, by being sent or receiving commissions after God has done His own work, to lead all God's followers. And these are the ones who cooperate with God's work. The work done by the Holy Spirit on those in the stream is to maintain all His own work. That is, to maintain His entire management and His testimony, while at once perfecting those who can be perfected. Together, these three parts are the complete work of the Holy Spirit. But without the work of God Himself, the management work would stagnate in its entirety. The work of God Himself involves the work of all of mankind, and it also represents the work of the entire era, which means that God's own work represents every dynamic and trend of the work of the Holy Spirit, whereas the work of the apostles comes after God's own work and follows from it, and it does not lead the era, nor does it represent trends of the Holy Spirit's work in a whole era. They only do the work man ought to do, which has nothing at all to do with the management work. The work God does Himself is a project within the management work. Man's work is only the duty that people who are used fulfill, and it is unrelated to the management work. Despite the fact that they are both the work of the Holy Spirit, due to differences in identities and representations of the work, there are clear and essential differences between God's own work and the work of man. Moreover, the extent of the work done by the Holy Spirit varies on objects with different identities. These are the principles and scope of the work of the Holy Spirit.